Hello friends, this is Tisha from Meadows and Mortar by Tisha, and today I'm going to use some wood scraps to make those cute little bookends. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I have got some mix to mold, and I got this at Hobby Lobby. There are a bunch of vendors online that you can get them from. You can get them from a bunch of different Etsy shops. And then on the back of it, it gives you the instructions of how much of the powder to mix to how much of the water that you need to mix. So I'm just measuring that out. Take a little stir stick and then you mix it up. Now this was my first time using this mix to mold, so you're going to see me playing around in a second with the technique that did not work out, but it's okay. So I used a little bit of that blue dye, and it's also the mix to mold brand, and I just put a little drop or two in it and then mixed it up. Now I'm taking it and I'm pouring it into my mold. This is from IOD. This is called Chanticleer, I believe. And it has these two little roosters and they're facing opposite directions. So I'm going to use one on one bookend facing one direction and one on the other facing the opposite direction. Now these molds are a deeper set mold than what we normally use with IOD. So these are going to be a lot thicker, they're going to be heavier, but they have like a flat base at the bottom of it, so it's going to be perfect for a bookend. You're just going to have to wait till the end to see. So I'm making more of that mix to mold, and you see I tinted it with the blue as well, but it came out a slightly different color, but that's okay for what I'm going to be doing. And then I decided that I was going to just put some drops of that pigment in there and swirl it around and see if it gave me a cool little effect. Spoiler, it did not. It just was on the back side of it. It did not bleed through to the front of it at all, even though I thought I was dragging it down, but I absolutely did not. So after it dries, you see me come in with my fingers and I'm just kind of going around the whole edges of it, peeling it back, and then I pop it out. Now this makes like a ceramic sort of feel, and if you throw this down on the floor or something, it's going to break, but it is sturdy in the sense that it's not going to break just from like handling it. But if you were like with glass or something or ceramic, if you throw it down on the ground, if you're super rough with it, then it will break. Then I come in with some black wax and I just put it all over the rooster, and I'm just wanting to kind of dirty it up a little bit, make it look a little more antiqued. I was a product tester for a company, so I can't give you the brand of this type of wax, but it was a soft wax. There are a bunch of different soft waxes out there that you could try. I know that Wise Owl makes really nice soft wax. You could use a hard wax too if you want, so that's going to be more of like your Annie Sloan type waxes. But if you're wanting something that doesn't just hit the top surface like I'm doing here and like with that smudgy smeary effect, then you're going to want to use something like glaze. Paint Couture makes excellent glazes in a bunch of different colors, so check them out if you decide that you want to do something like that. Or even if you wanted to take some paint and water it down, make like a paint wash, then you could make your own little glaze if you would like to do it that way. So after I did that with both of the roosters, not just that first one. Now I'm just taking some wood scraps. I have one larger piece, one piece that's slightly shorter than that one, and then one really small piece that's about half the width of both of those boards too. And these were just scrap pieces that I had up in my workshop, and I just cut them down to where they were equal sizes. And then you see me use some Craig screws, and then I'm just gluing them and screwing them into an L position, and then put the little one right in the center of it so it sort of looks like a book. Now I come in with some IOD molds again. This is one of the trimmings molds. I think it's trimmings 2, but I always get that wrong. It may be trimmings 3, I'm not sure. But anyways, any of the trim molds that you want to use, I come in with some air dry clay, and I'm just making some trim pieces to go across the edges of my wood blocks so that it doesn't look just like wood blocks. Now, you should use cornstarch to dust inside of there, because you see I broke off a piece, which I can just go and squish it right back in and then retry again. But if you dust your molds with some cornstarch first, it's a lot less likely for you to get it to stick like that and break off. I was just too lazy to get up and get it, but you'll see me here in just a second, and I'm like, screw this is really taking too long. I did end up getting some cornstarch after I fiddled with it a few times and was having some problems. If you don't have air dry clay, you could use some resin. The only reason that I'm using air dry clay on this is because with resin you have to get it out of the mold and use it like in a super timely manner, and with this it's a little more forgiving as far as the flexibility of it goes. And I just find it quicker in situations like this where I have to make multiple trim pieces instead of waiting 10 minutes in between each mold and demold. I can just make multiple of these, and then I'm just taking some Titebond glue and then I'm just gluing it on there. And you can see I'm not really sure how I'm wanting to put all the trim pieces on it. I'm just playing with it a little bit. And then I take some extra clay and then I just put just a few little strips up there, and then I'm mushing it down so it kind of looks like it's like a drippy sort of look on it. Now I'm using Paint Couture in the color Mystic Gray, and you can see it's just like a nice deep medium shade of gray, and I'm just going to put it over top of everything. Now my wood is raw. I did not prime this because I'm going for a rustic effect anyway, so if some of that pine bleeds through, it's okay. It's not the end of the world, but I didn't expect that it would. But I'm just wanting to give everything a good base coat on here. This is going to go over top of the clay and the wood, and this is just going to be my background color. I really try to take the end of my paintbrush and really dig it into those molds that I have made, just to make sure that I don't have any white peeking through, because they are very detailed and I want to make sure that I have the same base color throughout. If you wanted more of a bright color, then you could use like a cream or a color like that as your background instead of this dark gray, but I thought that this would be a really pretty background for it. Now I'm going to come in with another color from Paint Couture paint after I mist it with some water. This is just going to make it slide and glide on there a little bit better. This one is called Vintage Flair. This is a nice teal color. I did not wait until that gray was completely dried. Now I waited until it was dry to touch, but you saw once I activated it with the water that Vintage Flair did mix some with the gray, and it's okay. I'm going for a rustic look. I didn't want to wait any longer, and I'm just taking this and I'm putting it all over the trim pieces. And you see I'm putting it on the trim pieces, and then I'm taking a rag and I'm wiping the top parts off of it. So this Vintage Flair is really settling into the low points on this, but there is still some on the high points, but just not as much of it because where I'm wiping it off. This is going to give it a more rustic, weathered look. And if you like doing craft projects like this, home decor, furniture pieces, if you like doing that stuff, then I just want to take a second to ask and see if you will like my page, if you'll just follow along and help me grow this YouTube channel, because the more interaction that I get, the more followers that I get, the more videos I get to put out, and the more fun things that we get to do together. I'm also very active on Facebook. If you're on there, it's Meadows and Mortar by Tisha. I also have a TikTok, but I don't get on there very much, but I would love to have you on all the platforms. Now I'm going to come in with my neutral color. This is Paint Couture in the color Driftwood. And this is the nice neutral, like khaki sort of color. And I'm taking an artist brush and I put some of the driftwood on there, and then I wipe the excess off of it, and I'm using this just as a dry brushing technique. So I'm just going to barely hit the high areas on there. I'm not wanting it to completely saturate my color. I'm just wanting it to accentuate all of my pieces, and this is going to give me even more depth and dimension, and it's going to make it look even more worn and old. Dry brushing is one of those techniques that's really fun to play around with, but less is more. So make sure that once that you put it on there that you really do wipe off that excess, because if you put too much product on there, it's not going to look good. It's going to look completely saturated, and you're not going to get that authentic rusty crusty look that you're going for in this particular situation. So after I get it over all of the trim pieces, I am going over all of the wood pieces as well. And the same way, just a light amount of the paint. I'm just barely brushing it over the textured tops and just going back and forth really lightly. And I'm just wanting to sort of skim it and hit the high points. This is really going to give us like an aged, worn out look on this piece. After all the dry brushing was done, then I come in with my roosters and I glue them onto it. Now I do want to show you, you see a little bit of gold shimmer that's on there. I forgot to push record on that part of my video. I did use a little bit of gilding wax just to barely skim the top of some of the areas, and that just highlighted some of those pieces just a little bit more, but that part's optional. You don't have to do it. I come in with just some quick set glue here, and I'm just going to rub it all over the base of the rooster and the back of the rooster, and then I'm really just going to press it into my piece good, and then I'll let it lay there for a couple of hours just to make sure that it's good and glued on. Because remember, this is a ceramic, so I couldn't take like a nail or anything to nail it in there because I'd be afraid that I'd bust up my ceramic. But this works really nicely. You could use a hot glue gun if you wanted to, but this works fine. Super glue, anything that you wanted to make sure that it's good and adhered on there. I'm just lining it up, making sure that my base has good contact at the bottom and the rooster has good contact on that middle section as well. And then once that it dries, we're done. And you can take both of your pieces and just set your books in them, and look how cute that is. I really liked this project. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but I knew that I had those scrap pieces of wood, and I thought that those little roosters would be adorable, and I was like, heck, I'm going to try it. And I'm really glad that I did. So just take this as your cue to, if you have an idea about something and you're not sure, just go for it. And guys, thank you all so much for watching.